Welcome back to the Blame Game for the final round of playoffs for the summer split. I'm Mark Z, and each week after the LCS, I take a look at the top Reddit comments in the post-game discussion threads and decide if the blame there is justified or not. Now, I missed last weekend due to the extra travel time required for going to Toronto, and the event was amazing. The crowd was insane, and the games were pretty intense, so we'll start out with the finals. The match between TSM and Cloud9 was closer than I expected, but TSM still took the series 3-1. The only individual picking up serious blame during it was Meteos for tilting throughout the best of 5. Now, I emphasize the entire match because I want to see if that is really the case. Starting in the obvious place with the Zac game, things were going pretty well until this gank attempt happened. Bjergsen was hugging the far side of the lane away from Meteos, indicating that he was aware of the incoming gank, but Cloud9 tried to brute force it anyways. It may have worked too, but Jensen fired off all his abilities right away and missed his Q and E instead of waiting for Meteos to go for the flash ultimate and then following up. As a result, the play gets turned in the most brutal way, resulting in a 2-for-0 for TSM. After that, Svenskeren spends a ton of time in Meteos' jungle smiting camps away from him. It isn't until 15 minutes into the game that we see the next attempt at a big play from Meteos. He's able to get both flashes from the enemy duel lane in a trade for his flash and a couple ultimates, and then he makes the mistake of going through the bar portal. Maybe it was just a misclick, but otherwise I think it's fair to call this tilt because the obvious play is to back out and re-gank it as soon as the Zac and Ashe ultimates are back up against the immobile Jhin. Aside from that game, I'm not really sure it's fair to say Meteos was tilted throughout the rest of the series, as he matched Sven's early game pressure throughout most of them and was huge in giving C9 their early kills. There were still mistakes, like this botch play from C9 while they're trying to punish the Gragas being topside. The play was rushed overall as Smoothie went in before Meteos was really in range, and Impact's TP was pretty late. That said, most of these plays looked like bad team calls than Meteos tilt. All in all, I'd say it's fair to blame Meteos for tilting in the Zac game, but not fair in the rest of the series. Let's move on to Immortals vs CLG in the losers match. The third place match. By far the most talked about topic in this thread was CLG's draft, and in particular Game 5. CLG didn't ban the Vlad, giving it away first pick, and infuriated fans pointed out that CLG had lost to it every game this series. But is it fair to blame the Game 5 loss on the pick? Let's start with what I believe is CLG's draft plan for the series. They know that Immortals' main path for success is having reign over Snowball Huni, so CLG takes Shen top every game for two reasons. First is that Shen loses a lot of lane matchups but is pretty hard to run over. It's not uncommon to see a Shen down 10 to 20 CS, but it's not a very volatile matchup. This means that as long as Darshan is playing smart, it'll be pretty hard for Immortals to snowball off him. Second is that it allows CLG to focus around the bot side. Wild Turtle's laning phase is maybe the single most exploitable flaw in Immortals' laning phase. 6A was able to body Turtle in the 2v2 throughout the series, and it got so bad that Immortals had to start banning away his Jhin in the last game. Going into Game 5, Immortals forced CLG onto red side and gave them a difficult decision to make. If they left up Tahm Kench, perhaps they're able to protect Turtle in the early game, as we saw from Mithy just how strong a well-played Tahm Kench can be. Leaving up GP seems disastrous as well, as that is one of the best picks into Shen and has global pressure and great scaling for Huni to take over the game. CLG had moderate success in controlling the Vladimir in Game 2 with Malzahar and probably thought the trade was worth it since they can get Rek'Sai and Sivir in response. As we've seen throughout the playoffs, Rek'Sai is an insanely powerful pick and Sivir is one of the top tier AD carries. The draft shook out without many surprises, except for maybe Adrian's Tarek pick, and overall CLG seems like they got a decent comp. We would see if their decision to leave up Vladimir would be worth it or not in the gameplay. Any complaints about the draft can go right out the window because as soon as the teams hit the rift, CLG's mistakes had a much larger impact on the game than the picks did. The first play was an error in going over aggressive because even though Rek'Sai will get to the play first, Huni has TP priority. He pushed in the wave instantly from level 1, giving him the option to follow a play that happens around the map while Darshan is stuck CSing under turret. CLG didn't really seem like they were on the same page with the play, as neither Huni nor Darshan were ready for an instant TP follow-up. That alone should make this a risky play, but some mechanical misplays made it even worse as Stixxay doesn't flash out of the Tarek stun, allowing Turtle to get on top of him. Even with this blunder, CLG begins to crawl back. They're not playing super clean as they have a couple other mistakes, but they even up the gold and even take first dragon. 16 minutes in, things go completely off the rails with a sequence reminiscent of the Immortals vs Echo Fox debacle. The game gets blown open here, and it's fair to attribute some of this to Vladimir, as he's an extremely strong mid-game champion and difficult to kill. The constant fighting favors Immortals as they individually outplay CLG and make better decisions afterwards. I don't really like giving away the Vladimir either, but I think CLG's play should take up a much larger chunk of the blame over the pick. This week's unsponsored High Five Comment of the Week award goes to Pokemon Safaris, who pointed out that Turtle didn't go that bitchy Iceborne Gauntlet build and built Triforce like a real man. Except you'd have to ignore Game 3 where he did go the bitchy Iceborne Gauntlet build, and that you probably only went the Triforce build in Game 5 because he was snowballing out of control. Anyways, that's it for the final blame game of playoffs. We have the Gauntlet coming up next weekend, which I'll be working at, but it runs into Monday and I have a busy next week, so I'm not 100% sure if I'll have a blame game for the Gauntlet. I mean, even if I don't, the C9 Immortals rematch should be pretty hype, assuming it happens, so we have that to look forward to. I made a Snapchat, which is in the description below. I'm sure I'll be super active on it because I just love social media. My other links are down there as well, so follow me everywhere.